Now, this is the most important part of the bel canto technique. It is known as the inhalation of the voice. Lamperti said that you should sing as if you were continuing to inhale breath. Now, when a great many singers sing, they push or belt with the voice. They assume, since they are standing on the stage and the audience is out there, that the only way the audience is going to hear them is if they push their voice or belt or exhale their voice toward the audience. By doing this, the breath that has come out of the lungs is exhaled through the mouth toward the audience before very little of it has had a chance to enter the sinus cavities and produce what we call the overtone in the voice. Now remember, it's the overtone in the voice which softens and sweetens the ugly yelling sound created on the hard palate. And by exhaling the voice, you eliminate the overtone, which produces the mellowness or the melodic quality of the voice. And not only that, but when a singer exhales or belts or pushes with the voice, the natural tendency is to lean on the muscles of the throat, thereby causing strain in the sound, okay? Now, this inhalation that I'm talking about is an actual inhaling of your voice, okay? This is not something you just think about. It's something that you actually cause to happen. It's a willed action. If I asked you to inhale breath up onto the roof of your mouth without singing and you went, you would feel a stream of breath hitting the roof of the mouth. Now, when a singer exhales the voice, what they are actually doing is exhaling breath through the mouth, out toward the audience. Now, in order to inhale the voice, you do the opposite of that. You inhale. Now, this is an actual inhalation of breath, but you don't think of it as breath. You think of it as being your voice or your sound. Now, this inhalation of the voice is the means by which the breath which is going to come out of your lungs is brought out of the lungs in a controlled stream. In other words, the amount of inhalation I achieve by sucking in up onto my roof of my mouth in turn pulls exactly the same amount of breath out of my lungs, up through my vocal cords, into my head to create my sound. Now, if I want to sing softly, I inhale very gently, which pulls very little breath out of my lungs, causing my sound to be soft. Ha, 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 like that. Now, if I want to increase the volume of the sound, all I do is increase the amount of inhalation, which in turn pulls a great deal more breath out of my lungs, up through my vocal cords in my head, causing the sound to become louder, such as I did was increase the like that, and that pulled more breath out of my lungs, causing that sound to become louder. In other words, I have two streams of breath involved here. This stream of breath that I'm sucking in, I do not think of as breath. I think of it as being my voice or my sound. That stream of breath in turn sucks the breath out of the lungs up into the head, where the two streams meet. Okay? Now, I can liken this to two rivers flowing toward one another. The two rivers flow toward one another, and they meet and become one river. It's what is known as a confluence of waters, to be scientific. The two rivers meet and become one. Now, what action should I expect to get in the water at the point where those two rivers meet and become one? A whirlpool, yes, a turbulence, okay? And in a way, that is what I get when I suck in here, and that in turn pulls breath out of my lungs. I get a rolling of the voice, a resonation of the voice, okay? Now, the breath that has been sucked in and the breath that has come out of my lungs has to escape from my head somehow, okay? Now, the breath cannot go out through my mouth because I am sucking inwards. It can't go out my ears. There's no connection, okay? It has to escape from my head. It escapes from my head by going up through the sinus cavities, down through the nostrils, and out through the nose. Okay? Now you say to yourself when you look at this procedure, well, you can't do that. Because when you sing, when anyone sings, there has to be a continuous stream of breath coming out of the lungs in order to create the voice. So if you have a continuous stream of breath coming out of the lungs, you can't have breath going into the lungs. In other words, you cannot exhale and inhale at exactly the same moment. It's an alternate action. You exhale, you inhale. If I have a stream of breath coming out of my lungs to create my voice, and yet I say I'm sucking in, where does that breath go? Okay. Well, I just explained to you that the breath, once it meets the stream of breath coming out of the lungs, escapes through the nostrils. Okay. Now, by doing this, you have added two things to your technique which are very valuable. When the singer pushed with the voice, they eliminated a great deal of the overtone, which gives the voice its melodic quality. When you inhale the voice, in order for the breath to escape from the head, it has to pass through the sinus cavities and then out through the nose, through the nostrils. So what have you done by inhaling? You have automatically added the overtone to your voice just by the act of inhalation. Okay? Not only that, but when we breathe, which we're all doing right now, when we breathe in breath into our lungs, we don't use any muscles in the face whatsoever to create that action. In other words, if I go, I haven't used any muscles in my face to create that, okay? Now this is the ideal situation in singing. You have added the overtone by inhaling, and you have also relaxed the head by inhaling. In other words, you have the ideal situation in singing, that is very little muscular action in the head from the collarbone up. Again, I repeat, when you watch the great singers sing, one thing you notice about the singing is that it never looks as if they're working hard at what they're doing. There are no cords sticking out on the side of the neck. There are no veins popping. They don't turn red in the face. They sing high notes, high Cs as easily as they sing the lower notes. And it is this inhalation of the voice that allows you to do this. Now I think you can realize that this particular part of the technique is not something that you're going to do overnight. It's something that you have to learn by repetition, by doing it over and over and over again. Okay? Now, the way you are going to realize that you are inhaling your voice rather than exhaling your voice is that you will not, when you inhale, have any sensation whatsoever of having exhaled your voice. Okay? And, unfortunately, in the bottom and middle part of your voice, you're not going to feel anything happen. It's only when you get to the top part of your range that you're actually going to feel, if you do it correctly, you're going to feel a stream of breath hitting the roof of your mouth because you are willing this to happen. It's a willed action. Now, I want to make sure that you understand that this is not just something you do with your mind. It's something that you actually will yourself to do vocally. You are going to suck your voice up onto the roof of your mouth, inhale your voice, rather than push your voice. It is something that you have to work at. It's something that you have to do through constant repetition. Even though you don't feel anything happening in the bottom and middle part of your range, your indication that you are doing it correctly will be that you will not, N-O-T, feel that you are exhaling your voice. You will not feel breath exiting from your head through your mouth. Now what you're trying to do, and what the act of inhalation actually accomplishes in this technique, is that you are trying to resonate your voice as fully as possible, to get as much resonation out of your cavities of your head as possible. Well, if you trap the sound inside your head by inhaling, and the only way it can escape is by going through the sinus cavities, then you have trapped that sound inside your head, giving it a chance to resonate fully and create a full-fledged body of sound. Okay? Now, when you sing, you are standing in front of an audience. The audience is out here listening to you. The logical thing to assume is that I have to somehow get my voice to that audience. Well, if you have done the job correctly as far as your technique is concerned by inhaling and creating a full-fledged resonation in your head, you don't have to worry about your audience hearing you, because the sound wave, because of the resonation, will travel to their ears and they'll hear what you're doing. In other words, you are singing within yourself. You're always singing for yourself. You're holding the sound inside your head. If you do the job correctly up here, you don't have to worry about the audience hearing your voice. As a natural result of what you have done here, they will hear it out there. Now we have to combine the two parts of the body. At the beginning of your lesson, I said to you that the act of singing is as near perfect a coordination as you can get between this part of your body and your head. Now we've discussed the resonation, the creation of sound through inhalation and through resonance and whatever, as far as the head's concerned. Now we have to combine the two parts of the body. Now the rate at which your breath escapes from your lungs is due in great part to how quickly the diaphragm rises back up again into its normal domed position. Remember, when you breathed using your diaphragm lowered or went downwards to suck the breath into your lungs. Now, if you allow that diaphragm to rise too quickly, it will push the breath out of your lungs and thereby negate or nullify or fight what you're trying to do with the control of the voice through this act of inhalation. So we have to try to maintain or keep that diaphragm in its lowered position as long as possible so that it does not fight the inhalation. Because remember, the inhalation or the sucking in of the voice is the means by which you control your voice, your sound. Your ultimate aim as a singer is to be able to do anything you want with your voice. Any vocal effect that you want to produce, you should be able to do only if you have control over the amount of breath which is passing out of the lungs through the vocal cords into the head. So we want to try to keep that diaphragm in its lowered position as long as possible so it doesn't fight the controlling mechanism, which is your inhalation. And we do this by taking a breath with the diaphragm, like this, and then holding the breath from here down. Now you know that it takes breath to sing. Breath has to come out of your lungs in order to create your voice. But you're going to imagine that when you take this breath using your diaphragm and you fill up your lungs, that none of that breath that you have just taken into your lungs is going to be used to create your sound. That inhalation or that breath, which we think of as the voice, is going to be your voice or your sound, okay? So you're going to take a breath using your diaphragm, and you're going to hold or try to hold your breath from here down, okay, which keeps the diaphragm in its lowered position, and you're going to suck the breath out of your lungs using this inhalation. Now, over a period of time, that diaphragm will rise, and you take another breath. In other words, there is a reinitiation of breath between each phrase. In other words, you don't try to hold your diaphragm down for two or three phrases. As soon as you take a breath, the diaphragm rises, goes down again, you hold it, you inhale, you sing, okay? So the important thing is that the breath is held from here down and that you sing with the inhalation from here up. Now this is known in singing as singing on the breath, okay? In other words, this is your gas tank in the car, okay? And that's the accelerator. That makes the car move or the voice go, okay? Now, your voice, like anything else, well, we can liken it in a way to, we'll say, gold when it's in the ground. Gold is no good or not worth very much until you take it out of the ground and refine it and make something out of it, such as coins or jewelry or whatever. In other words, you may have been born with a very great vocal talent, but if it remains in the ground and you don't learn how to use it, nobody's going to hear it. And this is what this technique will do for you. In other words, you will be able to bring that voice out into the open where people can hear it, and you will be able to sing with an effortlessness that is astonishing to people who watch you sing. They'll say, how does she do that? She doesn't look like she's doing anything at all. She just opens up her mouth and sings. And it looks so natural and so effortless. And that's what this technique allows you to do. Again, I reiterate, this technique is not something you are going to learn in 6 weeks or even 6 months. You're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to persevere. You're going to have a lot of patience. It involves, as most things do that we learn in life, repetition. Now, repetition, unfortunately, can become very boring if you let it. And this is where, again, a positive attitude to this technique takes place. You have to approach this technique with the idea that you're going to succeed. And given some time, not a little, a lot of time, a lot of application and patience and so forth, this technique will open up a vocal panorama that you never thought was possible. Lamperti said, "Sing as if containing the breath within the body rather than blowing the breath out of the body."